They said whoever bought from her shop lost something they could never get back. Some lost their money. Some lost their peace. Some lost their marriages. And some lost their very souls. Her name was Grace. But in the town, people no longer called her by name. They whispered about her in low voices, their eyes shifting nervously toward her shop at the end of the market. They called it the cursed shop. But once upon a time to be feared. She was just a barefoot girl who sat outside her father's mud house, staring at the smoke curling from an empty pot. Grace was born into a home where poverty lived like a stubborn tenant. Her father was a farmer. His back bent under the weight of long days in the field, but no matter how hard he worked, the harvest mocked him. Sometimes the rains did not come. Sometimes pests ate the crops. Sometimes thieves carried them away. His hands were hard as stone, but his reward was always soft and small. Her mother sold vegetables by the roadside. She would spread peppers and tomatoes on a tray, sit in the burning sun, and hope for customers. Some days she came home with coins, some days she came home with only dust in her hair and tears in her eyes. Grace grew up in this want. Her school uniform was torn at the sleeves. Her sandals flapped as she walked, until she threw them away and learned to go barefoot. Her exercise books were half-used leftovers from other children. Sometimes she sat in class only to be sent away because her fees were unpaid. There were nights when her family shared nothing but soaked cassava flakes in water, with no sugar, no milk, no groundnut. Just flakes, sour and plain. Even that was not always enough. Grace learned shame too early. She learned to avoid the eyes of her richer classmates. She learned to keep her dreams small, because dreaming big only brought pain. But one night, something broke inside her. She was about 16. Her mother had just told her, "My daughter, we cannot pay your school fees this term." Grace sat outside, staring at the moon, while hunger growled in her belly. Her eyes burned with tears. She thought, "Am I cursed to live like this forever? Is this all life has for me?" It was then that the old woman appeared. Everyone in the village feared her. Her back was bent, her hair white as cotton, her eyes sharp as broken glass. Some said she spoke to spirits. Some said she ate with the dead. She stopped in front of Grace, studied her face, and said in a voice that cut through the night, "The river does not keep water for itself, yet it never runs dry. If you want wealth, child, you must be ready to give something in return." Grace's lips trembled. "What do you mean, Mama?" The old woman smiled, showing gaps where teeth once were. "Go to the river at midnight. Take palm oil, a black hen, and a white cloth. Pour your tears into the water. The goddess will hear you. But remember, wealth always asks for something back." Then she walked away. Grace could not sleep that night. Hunger burned her stomach, and anger boiled in her chest. So when the moon climbed high, she carried a calabash of palm oil, tied a white cloth around her waist, and held a black hen struggling under her wrapper. Barefoot, she walked to the river. The water gleamed under the moonlight like a silver blade. The trees swayed as though whispering secrets. Grace knelt by the bank. She poured the palm oil. She spread the white cloth. She slaughtered the hen, its blood spilling into the dark current. And then she whispered, her voice shaking, "River Mother, I am tired of poverty. Give me wealth. Make me great. I will give you what you ask." The river stirred. The current moved as though alive. A soft, chilling voice rose. "Child, your tears have reached me. I will give you wealth. But wealth is never free. For every cloth you sell, someone will lose what they love most. That is the price." Grace's heart thumped. For a moment she hesitated. But then she remembered the hunger, the shame, the torn uniform. "I agree," she whispered. The water went still. And from that night, Grace was no longer the same. At first, things seemed like miracles. A wealthy man suddenly offered her money to start a business. Another gave her a shop space in the market for almost nothing. People began helping her for reasons she couldn't explain. Within months, Grace opened a fabric shop. But this was not an ordinary shop. The fabrics glowed with beauty. The lace shimmered like sunlight on water. The Ankara carried colors too bright to be real. Even her cheapest cloth looked richer than gold. And yet, her prices were low. Almost anyone could afford them. The women rushed in. The men followed. Students, mothers, fathers, brides-to-be, everyone wanted something from Grace's shop. But whoever bought never left the same. A bride bought lace for her wedding. Days later, the marriage collapsed. A student bought Ankara for her graduation. She failed her exams and lost her scholarship. A man bought fabric for his wife. Within weeks, he lost his job. One by one, lives fell apart. And all the while, Grace grew richer. She built a house of painted bricks. She bought cars that shone like mirrors. She wore gold bangles on her wrist and walked with her head high. The girl who once cried from hunger now had servants who carried her bags. But curses are like shadows. They never leave, no matter how bright the light. At night, when the market was silent and her shop locked, Grace sat alone in her fine room. Sometimes, water dripped from her hair even though it had not rained. Sometimes, she heard footsteps in her shop when no one was there. Sometimes, she woke up to find her mirror fogged with wet handprints. And sometimes, in the deepest part of the night, she heard a voice calling. Grace. Grace, the river does not forget. Her heart would pound, her body tremble, but in the morning, she would laugh it off. After all, she had the wealth she always wanted. But deep down, fear grew roots in her heart. It began slowly. One of her loyal customers, a woman who often bought cloth for her shop, fell mysteriously ill. She spent her last days crying. It was the cloth. The cloth took my life. Another customer, a kind old man, died in his sleep after buying fabric for his daughter's wedding. Soon the whispers spread. People began to fear the shop. They said, "Our fabrics are cursed. Her wealth is not clean." But still, some came, because greed is stronger than fear. And Grace could not stop. Even when she saw their lives crumble, she could not close the shop. Because the curse was a chain around her neck. The river had given her wealth, and the river demanded its price. Her parents, who once rejoiced in her success, grew sick. Doctors could not explain it. Her mother wasted away, her father coughed blood. They died within weeks of each other. Grace was left in her big house, surrounded by gold, but no family. Her friends disappeared. Her shop assistants left, whispering that strange things happen at night. And then, one evening, as she closed her shop, she saw a woman standing by the doorway. The woman's face was pale, her clothes wet, her eyes black as coal. Grace froze. The woman spoke in the voice of the river. "Child, the river does not keep water for itself, yet it never runs dry. You asked for wealth, and you were given. Now it is time to pay your own price." Grace fell to her knees, weeping. "Please, take the money, take the shop, take everything, just leave me." But the voice replied, "What I want is you." The ground beneath her feet grew wet. Water seeped through the cracks. She screamed as cold hands pulled her down. The market women said they heard her cries that night, but when they rushed to her shop, it was empty. Her fabrics lay scattered, soaked with water. Her shop door swung open, dripping as though it had rained inside. Grace was gone. The shop still stands. Empty, abandoned, covered in dust. No one dares to use it. They say if you press your ear against its walls, you will hear water rushing, and a voice whispering, "The river does not forget." Some still tell the story of Grace, the girl who hated poverty so much that she sold her soul for wealth. And they say this: money gained by a curse never lasts. Without peace is not wealth at all. And shortcuts to great